Grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea. Today's video is going to be all about some mistakes that I made in my teens and in my 20s that I want to share with you. I'm going to be coming up on a birthday this month, and since I've been taking this leveling up journey seriously this year, I started to think back on my past and think about some things that I would tell maybe a younger sister or a younger best friend not to do if she was on this same leveling up journey that I'm on. I want to look out for you ladies and share some things that I think I could have done a little bit differently. All of our experiences that we have been through in the past, they don't have to define you, and I really have changed my mindset around letting my past hold me back from things that I want to achieve. So if you're in a situation right now, if you're much younger than I am, I just want to encourage you to think about that. No matter what mistakes you have in your past, no matter where you come from, I truly do believe that you can still level up, you can still work on yourself, and you can achieve a life of wealth and affluence. Let's go ahead and talk about the first thing. Now, this first thing that I think is a bit of a mistake that I made was not sticking with my goals for long enough. So many times I had some goals or some things that I wanted to achieve, whether they were short-term or long-term, that when the going got tough, I just sort of said, nope, this isn't for me. I'm gonna go ahead and give up. I don't see a way out. Now, of course, we need to know when we need to be cutting our losses, right? But there are things that I started. For example, I did start a business right out of college, and sometimes I wish that I would have found the way to keep going in order to let the business grow, and ultimately we decided to shut it down after really less than a year of being open. I wish I would have stuck with that a little bit longer, and sometimes my husband, he holds me accountable to this. He will bring to my attention points where he realizes I start to work on a project or work on something and I get bored with it, and so I just kind of stop altogether. He has seen me try to take on a lot of different things because we've been together for so long, and so I feel like he is completely in the right to let me know that I need to really give a goal or give something that I'm working on more than just a couple of weeks, more than just a few months, you know? And especially with this journey, this is something that I had already realized and already told myself in the beginning I need to be patient with, and it is really something that I feel like if I would have known in my younger years that things take time, I needed to work on my patience a bit more, then I think that I would be a lot further along perhaps by now. I actually had started a blog when I was in college, and this was before blogs were even really a legitimate business, were even anywhere near to what they are now for someone who runs a blog. And it was all about health and wellness, and I would share recipes, and sometimes I think back and I wonder, if I would have just kept that blog going, where would I be now? Could that have been something that I really enjoyed and was able to use to make a living, you know? Okay, so this second mistake, I will do my best to explain it to you in a way that makes sense and provide some examples, but I really used to be someone who would go with the flow and did not take ownership for my own life. I did not realize how hard I would need to work and, again, be consistent and be patient in order to see the things that I wanted to happen. I really think about this when I went to college and I studied marine biology, and I thought that just because I studied and got my bachelor's degree that I was going to be able to find a job right away, and that was just not the case. I really didn't think that I would have to work much harder than just getting that degree. And even getting the degree was hard work, right? But I did not take ownership of that. I sort of skated through college and did not put as much effort and take it as seriously as I should have. So just going with the flow and not taking ownership and realizing that as much as I would love for someone to just say, here you go, Leisha, here is the perfect job for you, here is the life that you want, here is the big bank account, that is just not ever going to be the case. And even if you have someone who is a provider for you and who helps you out with a lot of things, especially growing up, right? You really need to start to dive into some of the goals that you have and some of what it really takes in order to be able to build the lifestyle that you want. I wish that I would have realized that a lot sooner, because since I've taken ownership in probably my late 20s was when I really started to take ownership of my life and what I wanted to do, and really started to work. That's when I started to see the results. Now, this third mistake that I want to share with you, I've talked about before in one of my other videos, and that is just, I had no financial education. I really did not. I grew up in a family that was very frugal, and while I have things that I'm thankful for about my upbringing, I knew nothing other than don't spend your money, save it. I should have taken more of that advice to save some of my money, but I did not understand that there's actually a lot of other things that you need to know about money and how to, first of all, generate money. That's probably the biggest thing. I wish I would have, instead of focusing more on being frugal and not being able to spend on things, I wish I would have focused on figuring out, what were the skills, what were the things that I could do and that I was talented in that would help me to build more streams of income and be more consistent with gaining more income. Because since I have changed that about my mindset, I probably changed that about my mindset when I was probably 1 year into marriage. I realized, okay, I can save all that I want to, and I will be able to afford some things that I want to do, like trips and things. But if I do not find a way to increase our income, and my husband and I don't work together on that, then it doesn't even matter. In order to build a life of wealth and to be able to be an affluent person, you have to work on building more income and generating more income for yourself. And while there may be some things that happen, like you may have an inheritance that falls into your lap, which is great, we might win the lottery, at the end of the day, you're really going to have to work for it. And so that was a mistake that I made in my teens and my 20s, my early 20s, was that I just did not have the financial education that really led me to understand how to generate income and really how to go about saving correctly and budgeting. If you are watching this and you are 18, 20, somewhere in there in that range, go ahead and open yourself up a brokerage account so that you can start investing and do your research on that. That's a really big topic that I might end up covering in another video, just talking about what I've learned and gotten started with for my investment accounts. But the earlier you start, the more your money will grow if you are wise in your investments. And so I really encourage you to listen to me. If you are 18, 19, 20, go ahead and open yourself up an account. This next mistake that I made is something that honestly I still go back and forth with a little bit. My husband and I have this same, it's not an issue, but it is sort of just a way of thinking that we are trying to work on. But I really thought this way and had a lot of trouble with this when I was in my early 20s especially, and that is feeling like I was wrong in wanting to have a wealthy and affluent life. I didn't come from wealth and I did not come from money, and I was actually sort of taught that people who had money were not good people. And since then I've worked in different places and traveled a little bit and seen a lot of really good people that have wealth and they use that for good purposes, I wish I would have realized that sooner, because when I first started my side hustle and my first business, I just always felt so guilty for wanting to make more money. And if you feel like that right now, that is something that I want to encourage you to really work on. I did a lot of journaling actually to help myself to get rid of that mindset and feeling guilty for wanting to have a wealthy life, to be able to afford nice vacations with my husband, to be able to have a nice car one day, you know. So that was something that I've improved a lot on, and since I have decided that it's okay to want to be wealthy and to want to increase my income and make more money, I have actually started to make more money and increase my income. The fifth mistake that I made, and this would apply more if you're probably a teenager and in college, was I cared so much about boys and wanting to be loved by a boy. And I understand it's a completely natural want to be loved by somebody, but I just think I focused way too much on it growing up. I should have been spending my time learning, studying, and making sure that I was more equipped for a career, making sure that I was really working more on my character, and instead I always sought to get just really cheap forms of attention. You know, attention is just a cheap form of love, right? And so I did a lot of things, especially in college, that I just wish that I had not even really cared about. From the way that I dressed, from the parties that I would go to, the people that I would surround myself with, I do wish that I would have been a little bit more, just treated myself with value. You know, I wish I would have wanted to spend more time with people who were respectful and build better relationships with some of my friends from other areas of school. And I wish I would have been more serious about having a mentor back in college, especially. Even in high school, even if you are in high school and you're still a teenager, find a good mentor. I really did have a good period of time in my 20s where I worked with some high school students. I was doing tutoring, and I enjoyed spending time with my students and just helping them with different things that they were going through in life. And so I really think that the more that you have someone who's speaking into you and helping you to take your focus off of the boys and off of the very trivial things like what people think about you, popularity and all of that, the more that it's going to normalize what you're working on at such a young age and what you want to work towards. So then you won't even necessarily worry too much about the boys or having the popularity. At the end of the day, I will say that all of those things do not matter in comparison to if you want to live a quality life and an affluent life when you're older. Those decisions really do matter. And I think that I could have been at a higher level now if I would have paid less attention to those trivial things like the boys and the popularity contests and all of that. Now, this is the second to last mistake that I'm going to share in this video with you, with my last one being the one that I think if I could go back and redo, that would be the one. But this one is that I wish I would have taken and just paid more attention to my femininity. I said in some of my earlier videos when I first started documenting my journey that I grew up with brothers. I grew up with a family that was very outdoorsy, and to be quite honest, I felt like I always got along with guys better than other girls. And so I wish that, knowing what I know now, I could go back in time and probably just learn more hobbies and explore more interests that would have built my feminine energy up a little bit more. This is the last mistake that I'm going to share, and it is the biggest mistake that I think personally I made in my teens and 20s that really ultimately will hold you back from your level up journey, and that is living in the perception of what other people want you to be. I don't know if that makes very clear sense to you, but essentially I worried so much about making other people happy and coming across to them the way they wanted me to come across, the way that they wanted me to behave, building a life the way that they wanted me to build it. And I did that for way too long. That was something that I worked on a lot in therapy with, is really defining, who am I, and stripping down the lies that I've believed that really other people have told me, and maybe not even with a malicious intent, but I just think this is so important, and I wish that I would have learned who I was as an individual a lot sooner and been confident in that. Ultimately, I guess we call that a people pleaser. That's the term that most people are familiar with. I was just such a people pleaser. I think I mentioned earlier in this video that I didn't want to rock the boat too much, and that might be you. And that's okay, but it's something that we can work on and we can become aware of, and ultimately it really does come down to your confidence, I think. And the more you build confidence and you understand who you are, you know exactly who you want to be and what you're working on, the more that you are not going to live as that people pleaser. I said in the beginning, don't regret your past, and you can't live in your past. You need to live in the present a bit more and be hopeful for your future, and not let anything that you have been through or done in the past affect what you want now. And so hopefully this encouraged you. Maybe you learned something. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know also what other videos you would like to see. Give this a thumbs up if you like this topic, if you like me sharing some of these things, just talking about my 20s, my teens, things that I think I could have done a little bit differently, we'll just say that. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoy being here with you each week. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.